Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, May 24th meeting of the School Board of the Dover Area School District. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Benko, could we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Britton? Here. Mr. Cook?
Here.
Mr. Deschaux?
Here.
Mr. DeLauder?
Here.
Mr. Eifert?
Here.
Mr. Emig? Mrs. Herman?
Here.
Mrs. Maley?
Here.
And Mr. Rawhauser?
Here.
8 of the 9 present.
Thank you. First on the agenda is presentations and celebrations. Mr. Cherry.
All right, at this time, I'd like to invite Amanda to come up, and they have a presentation for us this evening.
We're new at this. All right, go ahead.
Would you like me to start?
Just 1 second. I'm Amanda Oswald, the life skills teacher, and this is my assistant, Karen Mayer.
Hello.
We were fortunate enough at the beginning of May to take our class camping. Due to weather, we had to move our camping trip indoors to a local church that our class cleans. But we were still able to set up tents and have a great time. It was just really neat watching Dover students interact with other Dover students with a focus on friendship and ability, which was the focus of our camping trip.
Okay, and what a success it was. We're sure you're going to enjoy our video. It was a great adventure for students and staff alike. Just wanted to take this opportunity to thank the school board and all of Dover Area School District for presenting us with this opportunity. It was a special event. There were magical moments, and we hope you enjoy it also. So thank you.
The day before the trip, our year class went to Walmart to buy supplies and food. It was fun packing our clothes for camping. For some of us, this was our first time spending the night away from our parents.
We used teamwork to unload the vans and set up the tent.
We set up our tents in the tram to sleep in blank. Our class enjoyed hanging out Thursday night, playing games inside and outside. Mr. Pugh and Mr. Folk, Matthew, Aaron, and Anthony built us a big campfire. Singing by the fire with our friends was amazing. We made special memories as a class.
I think all of us really enjoyed the song.
We ended our special day with watching a movie together. We then went to our tent to sleep.
Friday morning, our class made one of our favorites, baggy omelets for breakfast.
Several of our friends from school joined us on Friday morning.
At that day, the group in a yoga class.
Friday, we spent the day hanging out with our friends from school. We played games, listened to music, did crafts, made t-shirts, and had lots of fun.
This experience gave all of us memories to love a lifetime.
My favorite part is eating s'mores.
So for me, camp was a wonderful experience. Getting to interact and play with everyone was wonderful. It meant a lot to give back to them as they do so much for us, and having that experience was something that I can't put into words, and I'd love for this to happen again.
I really enjoyed the camp because it was a really good experience meeting everybody and bringing everybody together in one big setting and allowing us to play games, have fun, we even made t-shirts, and it was just a really good experience getting to meet everybody.
My favorite part was camping, was playing with Drew and Robert basketball.
It was a great way to get to know everyone in the school, make it very diverse, just so everyone can have friends and companions to have in school, and that's a good thing to have.
My favorite part was the file.
It gave us the opportunity to bond and be unified with the life skills class.
My favorite part is s'mores.
I think camp really provided everyone with a really fun experience and opportunity to maybe foster relationships that wouldn't otherwise have been created. So I think it was honestly a really great experience for everyone, and we did some really cool activities.
My favorite part is sleeping in the tent.
So camp, I thought it brought us all together as a community. We spent the entire day talking and having fun and just playing games, and it was just a great way to connect with people that I normally don't get to see throughout the school day.
My favorite part was the campfire.
Okay, I'm really thankful for the opportunity to spend the time with my wonderful friends from the life skills class.
What was your favorite part?
Sleeping in a tent.
Sleeping in the tent?
Yeah.
I enjoyed the camp because it gave us the chance to really come together as people instead of having their kids and our kids, and it really gave us the chance to come together and mingle and play games. And
My favorite part was making the pizza.
It was a great experience with the life skills kids that allowed us to take part in activities together and have lots of fun.
My favorite part was Pizza Hut.
Your
Support.
awesome adventure.
That was very nice. And Mr. Depew, I think you scored a home run with that campfire in there. Very nice. Very nice. Great job. Great job. Okay, retiree recognition.
All right, well, we had the opportunity earlier to have some dinner with our retirees. So as a group, they represent 275 years in this amazing field. And
they look great for that many years.
Teasers might deny you. I don't know. But once again, we thank you for everything that you provided to our children and to our community and so forth. We appreciate all that you have done. And once again, we're here to recognize you this evening. So I was going to ask the members of the board to possibly group themselves together here. I'd like to call each one of them up individually. So that you can come up and be recognized. Our audience can applaud for you, and I'd like to take a picture as well. All right.
Well, we came on. Push your chairs in the center.
Kathleen Zarnick. Marla Davis, 28 years of service. Peggy Eisenhart, 38 years of service. Tammy Hauser, 30 years of service. Joanne Kahn, 19 years of service. Beth Kenworthy, 22 years of service. Jean Kern, 22 years of service. Benita Klein, 23 years of service. Joel Riedel, 18 years of service. Mark Sheffer, 25 years of service. Catherine Strine, 43 years of service. Next, we have our recognition for our student representatives. First, we would like to give a certificate of recognition to Jolie Fox for serving as student board representative during the 15-16 school year. And next, we have the PSBA plaque for Aaron Thomas, who has been a student board representative for both 2014 and 15 and 2015-16 school years. Thank you, Aaron.
Well, speaking of student representatives, it's time for our student reports. So I will turn it over to the two of you.
All right, so I'll be starting with Dover Elementary. On May 25th, sixth graders visited the intermediate school for their orientation program. On May 27th, they had their field day, which their theme was Olympic themed. Each classroom represented a different country. On May 31st, they will be holding their awards assembly at 2:00 p.m. in the all-purpose room. On June 1st, they will be having their kindergarten screening during the instructional day. Libe Elementary. Libe participated in the York County Envirothon competition this spring. For a decade, they have entered teams from grades 3rd and 4th, and this year they also entered grades 5th and 6th. The teams performed very well and thoroughly enjoyed the experience. Libe's Fine Arts Night occurred on May 5th. Their students' artistic and instrumental musical talents were showcased. Libe's second annual STEM event is scheduled for Thursday, May 26th from 9 to 3 p.m. Students will compete by building a Rube Goldberg machine, which is a complex machine that completes a specific task. Throughout the year, the STEM lessons have focused on simple machines including levers, inclined planes, and pulleys, learning about force and Newton's law of motion. Fifth grade students have an outstanding learning experience with outdoor education in May, and also their grade 6 students will travel to Biztown on Friday, May 27th. To North Salem Elementary, the sixth graders will be visiting Biztown on May 20th. North Salem will also be hosting their jazz concert and art show on May 25th, beginning at 6:30 p.m. The students of North Salem are collecting donations to support the SPCA in the month of May. If you would like to contribute, please send donations such as pet food and pet items into the main office. The North Salem PTO will be sponsoring a sixth grade social for their students who will be moving to the intermediate school on Thursday, May 26th. The celebration will include a DJ, photo booth, and tasty treats. And last but not least, Wagglestown Elementary. Their student council is building a new area in the sensory garden at Wagglestown. Their students decorated blocks for Earth Day, and they are being used to frame the area. Also, a couple upcoming events. On Friday, May 20th is their PTO ice cream social at Student Talent Show from 5 to 8 p.m. And Friday, May 27th is Fun Day from 9 to 3 for all students. And Thursday, June 2nd is the annual sixth grade parent breakfast.
And then moving on to the middle school, starting off with our music and choir programs. Their concerts were phenomenal. Big shout out to Mr. Apgar and Mr. Keller for getting all of the students prepared for that evening. They had their first annual exchange band concert. It was a huge success where their band students played 4 numbers for their English friends over in James Hornsby School in Essex, England. Their awards assembly and pool party will be held on June 1st. And they will honor the 8th grade students that have excelled while the students were in the middle school. And again, they wish the best of luck as they make that transition into the high school. And then moving on to the high school, last week they had 2 awards programs. One was on May 17th, where they recognized their spring sports programs and athletes. And the other one was on May 18th. where they hosted the annual academic awards banquet where students were recognized for their outstanding achievement. Thank you for all the board members that showed up for that evening, as it recognized a lot of our student talents that we have over in the high school. On Monday, the robotics team was featured on WGAL, where Lori Burkholder came out, and they did a segment on the robotic pancake printer, and also the robotic dough that was designed and built by Mr. Bond's class. So big things going on in our STEM program over at the high school. Last Saturday, we had our prom. It was great seeing some of the school board members out there. The theme was Small Town Dreams, and it was held at Round Top Mountain Resort. Big thank you to Mrs. Kress and Mrs. Linker, who were the junior class advisors. Tomorrow, there will be an academic achievement luncheon at the Carousel Building for our life skills students. Big thank you to Mrs. Oswald and her team as well for all that they do for those students. It's great seeing that video. On Thursday, the school will be hosting a transition day for our 8th grade students that are going to be coming to the high school next year. There will be a parent meeting program at 7 p.m. that evening, and the events will focus on supporting a successful transition to the high school. And then, of course, next week is commencement week for our class of 2016. We have a number of activities planned. On Monday, May 31st, will be our senior class trip to Six Flags. June 1st will be our senior walk. Our whole class is going to go to our home elementary schools in our cap and gowns and kind of go high fives to the little kids there to kind of go back and see the memories that were made through our schooling. Friday, June 3rd, will be our senior celebration picnic after school. And then ultimately ending in the almighty graduation, hopefully outside, knock on wood, on Saturday, June 4th at 10 a.m. So great things going on in our district.
Are there any questions for our student representatives tonight?
When on talking about the student report, I thought it was very nice that Channel 8 gave Dover School District a positive report.
Any other comments? Okay, again, I just want to thank both of you for your service to the board. I hope it's been a good experience for you, good learning experience. And I also want to thank you for inviting us to prom. That was the first time I'd been there in 29 years. So we had a really good time. I left the blue tuxedo at home and all that, but a great time. So thank you for including us. So, as always, you're free to stay, free to go, whichever you prefer tonight.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is the first public comment period. This is for items on or off of the agenda. This is a 3-minute period. If you have anything that you would like to talk about related to items on or off the agenda, feel free to come to the microphones and state your name and address for the record, please. I don't see anybody moving, so I guess we don't have any public comment for this period. Okay. Moving on to board president's communication. We did have an executive session on last Thursday, May 19th. It was after our meeting to discuss personnel matters that appear on tonight's agenda. Then we also had an additional executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss additional personnel matters related to reorganizations within the district. As far as other communication items go, I'm very sad to see all of these retirees leaving our district and the years of experience, so we wish them well. Prom was great. Our students did a fantastic job with that. They were extremely well behaved too. We didn't hear any horror stories with that, so kudos to them. Kudos to the staff for all of their hard work putting that event together. It was a very nice evening. So that is all I have to address there. So with that, we will move on to the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 10th, 2016 special board meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Benko, could we have the vote, please? Okay, with 8 yeses, motion carries. Moving on to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve all items listed under the consent agenda this evening?
Can I
interrupt to ask a question?
Mhm.
Okay. I guess in looking over some of this, I feel like in some ways we're putting the cart before the horse. Is that how the saying goes? In terms of, I'm looking here on the consent agenda. We're voting to create these job descriptions, or voting to agree on these job descriptions. But the one job description in particular has to do with another voting item that we will have later in terms of reorganizing two educational departments. So I feel like we're creating the job description and voting to say, yes, this is a job that we have in the district, or we want to have in the district, but we haven't voted on the actual merger of the two departments. Does that make sense? Like the one job description is the Director of Exceptional Children / Pupil Services, which right now is not an existing position. And we haven't voted yet to make that position exist. So I feel like that's putting the cart before the horse. Do you understand what I'm saying?
And approving a job description doesn't mean you have to post for a job description and or advertise for one. We have Mr. Casino, he's not here. He probably has a 5-inch binder of approved job positions that we've always had, or we've had in the district, or have created. Some we've filled, some we don't fill anymore. So
we still, the position of Director of Exceptional Children still exists in our district, and the position of Director of Pupil Services still exists.
yeah, they don't
And they have
ever
not
go
been
away.
removed.
Correct. Yeah, they don't ever go away. They stay.
Okay.
That's why everyone gets a number in the corner.
Okay.
Because it identifies the job.
Okay. So voting on the description
Does not mean anything else other than you just approved the job
Okay.
description.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome.
So do we have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion about any of these items?
Nate, I thought we had talked about maybe reading all of those items in the past, or did we not decide to do that?
We can go by category. I wasn't going to read all
Okay.
30-plus items
Okay.
individually.
I just wasn't sure what we had decided on that,
Yeah.
just to make sure that the public's aware of which specific items we are truly
Okay, are
voting
there
on
any-
right at this moment.
Are there any questions related to the curriculum and professional development category? None on that? Human and fiscal resources?
And can you show that for the public to see, because they're not?
Yeah, I'm trying, since I already
Okay.
opened the motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just know sometimes it's confusing for the public if they can't actually
I'll go back to
see.
I'll go back to the curriculum. Anything with a star there is on the consent agenda. This is the human fiscal.
Anything in human and fiscal, anybody? Hearing none, safe and supportive schools? Any questions? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion and a second. Mrs. Benko, could we have the vote, please? With 8 yeses, the motion carries. Okay, we'll move on to the individual votes that we have before us tonight. I believe the first one is the food service budget. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the food service budget and price increases for the 2016-17 school year? Estimated revenue of $1,624,886. Estimated expenditures of $1,606,236. And an increase in student lunches of 10 cents to $2.70. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or discussions on this? My question for public clarification would be the increase to $2.70. Is there a mandated price from the federal government or state that we would need to be at?
There's there's a calculation that the state gives us that we have to utilize for our National School Lunch Program, and some factors go into that calculation, and when you run it, that is the increase in the lunch that it gives us that we are mandated to take. Is that correct, Mrs. Curry? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll have the vote. Mrs. Benko. And 8 yeses, so the motion carries. Next item is the Homestead Farmstead Resolution. Do we have a motion to approve the Homestead Farmstead exclusion for 2016-17?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And thirds, apparently. Questions or discussion? Hearing none, Mrs. Benko? The yeses, the motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a final budget presentation. I believe Mrs. Benko has some slides you're going to share with us to discuss the preliminary versus the final proposed budget. Okay.
Okay, so we met back here in April, and we, as an administration team, gave you our preliminary proposed budget. And now we are presenting here our final proposed budget to you as a board for approval. If you remember back in April, our proposed core budget overview, we were budgeting approximately $57.2 million in revenue, 58.7 in expenditures, which led to a core budget fund balance utilization of $1.4 million. If you also remember, we had given you additional initiatives at that time that we were proposing that you approve, and those were a net savings of $2,989 with a total fund balance use of $1.4 million. So things have changed since that April presentation, and I'll go through what has changed in a minute here. This is our May final proposed core budget overview, which would reflect changes in state subsidies and budget considerations. Budgeted revenue right now for our core budget is at $57,692,821. Our expenditures budget is at $58,699,842, which gives us our core budget deficit of $1,007,021. And we reevaluated our initiatives and took another look at state subsidies that we're getting. And here, with our new initiatives and things that we've kind of moved around, we have a net expense of $199,573, with a total use of fund balance of $1,206,594. So I guess, there's some changes in there. What changed? On May 2nd of 2016, PDE released the district's final allocations for our 15-16 basic ed, special education funding, and also our Ready to Learn grant funding, which actually resulted in a $303,000 increase in our budgeted revenues. So we did go ahead and add those on to our core budget. Also, if you can recall last meeting, there was a board directive to take the elimination of per capita taxes out of our core budget proposal and add them on to an additional consideration for a separate vote. And that's why the larger number there in our budget considerations as a net expense. And we also reevaluated the additional budget considerations, and we changed the following. So from the proposal in April to the proposal we have here in May, we would like to, because of the new state subsidies that we have gotten, we would like the district to retain our assistant athletic director and athletic trainer in-house. And we are also asking if we could allocate additional dollars for K-2 tech initiatives, along with our one-to-one initiative in grades 3 through 12. So our 16-17 final initiative considerations for you to consider tonight, and these will all be a separate roll call vote on the agenda tonight. Is the reorganization of 2 educational departments, which is a savings of $159,189. We would like to hire an intermediate school and high school media specialist at an expense of $80,731. We would like to hire an academic coach / facilitator for the high school at $86,031. We are proposing that we have 2 activity buses run for after-school activities and clubs at an expense for $20,000. We would like you to consider purchasing a new district van to replace one of our older vans. If you've ever ridden in them, you know how shaky they are. At the expense of $25,000. And again, our K-2 technology equipment that we would like to purchase, $15,000. And then the elimination of the per capita nuisance tax, which really ends up as a reduction of equalized meals for our community members, is a deduction of revenue of $132,000. So again, there's your $199,573 number, which would be a net expense if all of these proposals were accepted tonight here at the meeting. Are there any questions?
Jan, on the expenditures,
Uh-huh.
Is any of that expenditure a one-time outlay of money, or is that kind of pretty much what we're looking at year after year? 58 million.
Yeah, I mean, the district van definitely is, once every couple years. I know the following year we'll probably be proposing another van because we have some that are in bad shape.
I would also say the activity buses too, because like I said, that's something that you can evaluate year to year and determine whether or not that's a value add to us. So I would say the activity bus, the van are certainly 2 areas that you can look at each year.
So in the core budget, we're looking at recurring, there's no one-time expenditures in that core budget?
No, not a core.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yes, and I know we went over some of this last time. The intermediate school and high school media specialist expense $80,731. I'm guessing that means $80,731 apiece, and that includes benefits.
No, the 80,000, I think we used a master's step 1 salary plus benefits. We multiplied that by 2, and then we reduced the 2 secretaries that are currently there to get to that net of 80,000 that you have there for the total cost.
Okay. My only concern about not having secretaries is, and I expressed that last time, there's so much work. So I don't know if eventually maybe we could go back and address this again and possibly find money for secretaries next year when the 2 new people come in and we find out that, wow, yeah, it's a lot.
We can certainly evaluate, because we would still have a secretary, but as you said, and you can even do that throughout the year, so you don't have to wait to budget time to add something. So,
Okay.
you know, if we say, hey, it's October and we feel that we need another secretary, and Jen and I can review the budget and bring a proposal back to you, and if that's something you want, then certainly as a board you can vote on that.
Okay, and then the academic coach facilitator, 86,000. So that's salary and benefits. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all.
Mr. President, do you want us to address our questions related to the individual items
At the
this
individual
time?
votes.
At the individual
Yeah,
votes?
yeah. So if we have a question related to the per capita,
or a
let's
comment
wait
regarding
for that.
it,
Yeah.
address it at that time?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Benko. Okay, as Mrs. Benko mentioned, we will have a series of individual votes related to some of the items separate from the core budget. The first item is the per capita tax elimination. Do we have a motion to eliminate the district's per capita taxes beginning fiscal year 2016-17?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Questions or discussions related to this?
I do have some thoughts on this. This has been a subject, and Mrs. Benko, thank you for doing the work to update the numbers and everything and pull that item out. This has been a really, really difficult subject for me to wrestle with, because there's a lot of pros and cons to elimination or keeping the per capita tax. 120 plus thousand, the numbers you used here is 132,000. That loss of revenue is substantial in my opinion. For me personally, I've never really considered the per capita tax to be burdensome. I've always been more so minded to think of the property tax as more of a burden rather than the per capita tax. And the per capita tax really is spread amongst all of our community, not just the property owners. So we've heard a lot of things about, unfair taxing of real estate, and it's very hard on the elderly. So to lose this revenue source now puts more of that burden back there. So that's something to consider. We're thinking about a potential building program somewhere down the road, and to lose $132,000 seems like a little bit inconsistent with, needing revenue down the road if we're potentially going to need ask the community to join us in that venture. Once it's gone, it's gone. I mean, if we eliminate this tonight, we're not bringing it back. From what I'm told, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to bring it back. So those are all kind of the negative things. But then the district tells us that it's cumbersome to collect, and so that's a positive reason not to strap our resources to collect this money. The windfall evidently doesn't match up to the amount of time and effort that it takes to collect it, so that's a positive thing. Our business manager, our business coach, our superintendent have all weighed in and are definitely in favor of elimination of it. So that's something worth considering on a positive side of eliminating it. Many other entities around us, Dover Township being one that eliminated it as well. More and more people are recognizing it as a nuisance tax and saying enough's enough, let's get rid of it. So that's, we're not doing something unprecedented here, so that's a positive. and where I'm really falling tonight, and I'm sharing this not because it's important for you to know how I feel about it, but just to kind of share where I've wrestled with this. I feel like, with our fund balances that we have in place, that we have overtaxed our community for a number of years now. And as I shared some time back when we were talking about what to do with fund balance and what to do with taxes and things like that, I really think that this is an opportunity to say to our community that we have overtaxed you, in some way, shape, or form. And this is a way to maybe give back to the community a little bit of something. It's not a lot, but it is worth noting that, yes, we have the opportunity to give something back there. That's not to say that a year, 2 or 3 years down the road, if we've, embark on a building project, that we might need you to come back and say, hey, we're going to stand behind that, and, it's possible we might need everybody to step forward. But at this point in time, knowing that our leadership is asking us to strongly consider removing this, and our community is feeling the pressures, that's something that weighs heavily into my mind. I mean, this is eliminating a revenue stream for our tax collectors as well, so that's worth consideration. But where I'm falling tonight is I think it's an opportunity to give something back, knowing that down the road, we're going to possibly have to partner together to build a facility, which we all are realizing we sorely need. So thanks for the opportunity to voice that by pulling that off and putting this on an individual vote. So thank you for that.
I would echo a lot of your comments, Mr. Cook. As a business person, I hate to see any revenue stream dry up or disappear. That's always a concern. However, when I look at our current financial status within the district, we are in fine shape, and this is an opportunity for us to provide some relief to our neighbors. So I too would be in favor of moving ahead with the elimination of this tax. If we weren't in the financial position that we are in, it'd be a different story. But based on the presentations that we saw from Mrs. Benko and Mr. Kagi when he was here, there's not a better time to do this at this point than now. So, any other questions or discussion on this? Hearing none, Mrs. Benko. With 7 yeses and 1 no, the motion carries. Okay, next item is the reorganization of 2 educational departments. Do we have a motion to approve the budget proposal to reorganize 2 educational departments?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion on this item?
I guess I just want some clarification and for the public to be able to hear it too, in terms of what exactly you're seeking to do with this consolidation of the 2 the exceptional children and pupil services, because we're going from having kind of 3 people in charge there down to 1 person in charge with 2 support people, and clarification that is the plan, so that everybody.
In terms of bodies, there will still be 3 bodies that we currently have. They'll just be structured differently. So instead of having a number of managers, we would have 1 manager that would oversee both departments. We would still have 2 support staff that would support. So currently the support structure in terms of administrative support would be there. So you would have administrative support for pupil services, as well as administrative support for special education. And then supporting that new director would be 2 IAs. That would be 12-month employees who would go out into the buildings to support doing IEP meetings, JIEP meetings, and 504 plans. So that number 3 is still there. It's just 1 manager overseeing the department. Anything at the school level remains absolutely the same in terms of support, whether it be GIP, IEP, paras, all of those things are still the same.
So those other support positions are full-time positions?
Yes. in their 12-month.
Okay. I guess I'm trying to get my head around, I mean, you know, we have 3 very involved people in those manager positions, and we're 3 very busy people. And I guess my concern is, can that really be combined to having that one person in charge, even though that there are other positions underneath that? Is that still going to be enough manpower?
Right. And as I said during our last meeting, I did go to a neighboring district that has the same structure that we're talking about, same size, same populations in terms of special ed, GIP, and so forth. I actually spent a significant amount of time interviewing her and talking about it. So they were a district at one time, approximately 3 years ago, that had 2 departments. She too was a little reluctant when they first moved, but now appreciates the move because of the number of redundancies and so forth that happened. They were able to actually clear up their systems in terms of what was being reported, what was actually being done. So she said it's extremely doable system. It works for their district. She said over time, because now that they have their systems in place and things work, everybody knows their job and their function. For this year, they're actually adding a 3rd IA to their kind of caveat because they're focusing much more instruction now and just not the day-to-day operation. So she's like, that would be my only lesson that she said you might think about over time, is adding another IA to help support with that structure. But she said in terms of the management, she manages both departments.
The only thing on that I would ask, I mean, I am okay with the reorganization, but I do have that same concern. I was just wondering if it is, will it be a little much for one person to manage? And I would just ask that we are allowed to have regular updates to make sure that we are, you know, that we're not getting overwhelmed with that. And if so, then kind of like the secretary, to see if we can find a way to add additional help to that department.
And that's always, and that always ebbs and flows because we get students coming and going from our district, and what I think everyone can say is over time, we've received students who have more and more needs. So, you know, I would say probably over time that we're probably going to have to come back and beef that structure up. That was something that I learned as we began to bring services back from the IU that other superintendents said. It's not always a matter of cost savings because you're still going to have to build the same system. So yeah, you might save a little bit because you're not paying the management fee out to somebody else, but you're still going to have to build similar or same like systems that you currently have. So I won't have any problem coming back to the board to request more services if we need them, or more support in this case.
So what would the degrees be for the 2 coordinators? I understand what the director would have, but what would the 2 coordinators, what are we looking for when we hire somebody or put somebody in that
We want them
position?
to have special education degrees and also experiences with children with exceptionalities. So those are the 2 driving key factors. If they have administrative degrees, bonus. But we would typically look for those teachers who have certifications in those fields that we'd be looking for, primarily special education.
So the director has to have an administration degree, but the other 2 do not. Is that what I understood
Correct.
you to say?
Yep.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Benko. With 5 yeses and 3 noes, motion carries. Okay. Next item is the media specialist. Is there a motion to approve the budget proposal for the intermediate school and high school media specialists?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussions on this item? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Benko. With 8 yeses, motion carries. Okay, next item is the academic coach facilitator for the high school. Do we have a motion to approve the budget proposal to hire an academic coach and facilitator for the high school?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussions on this item?
Can you just clarify as to what, I think I missed the meetings where it discussed what the academic coach and facilitator, the duties would be?
Yeah, I'm going to actually ask Mr. Wassler. Come on up.
Sorry.
Put on my fancy tie tonight.
There you go.
See, I'm helping you show it off.
Mr. Henry said I didn't wear a bow tie and he's not here, so. No, one of the things about this is, and I'm going to say I'm not a big fan of the word coach, but it's one of those where as we were defining the job, it was one we kind of put in the line to what the district already had. An academic facilitator serves the needs of the staff in providing professional development coaching. So in the role in the building, Mrs. Strasbaugh and myself provide a lot of professional development for teachers, but we're in an evaluative role. And as a teacher, there is a piece of, while we say we're evaluative but non-evaluative in that conversation, teachers need a non-evaluative individual who can provide professional learning, help them with coaching, work them through data analysis where they know it's a safe environment. The other piece there is that the high school is about to undergo a pretty radical transformation towards an academy structure. This person will overtake that academy role in terms of coordination. Putting that person in place in a year or two when the academy structure, as we're going to start building it next fall, would put them in the middle of that. I believe that person, if they're going to coordinate, needs to understand it from the time we start the conversation with parents, with students, with our staff, to be on the ground floor as we're building that structure if we're going to make it successful for our kids. And so putting that person in place now, their role will lay very heavily on that professional development and the data analysis side with a little bit of the academy building. But over the next year or so, that role would slowly evolve more into that academy coordination in the building with our career and college prep programs that we're working on, but also on that data analysis to align that for our staff. That explain a little bit?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I ask you to explain the academy, please?
I opened a can of worms on you. Yes. So one of the things that we look at in high school is the idea of the college and career goal for a student. And so we're looking at small learning communities. And so what we're undertaking is a 5-year process to try to implement a college and career program for our students. So the outline of where we're looking at now is in 9th grade, those students would essentially be placed in what now is called a homeroom. We'll call it an advisory. Those students will work with that advisor on transitional skills in the fall. So you focus on the things students typically need: study skills, executive functioning, the things that are transitional. And then over the course of the year, you start to develop the career development goals. And that at the end of that cycle, the students then choose their college and career goal path. So 10, 11, 12, they're assigned essentially to an academy. That academy may be science, technology, and engineering, math. It might be arts. It might be business. It might be health, human services. But what we're looking towards then, and if you look at the grad requirements for 2020, there's those 5 credits for small learning community style electives or focused electives. That academy is that focus. So that student says, I'm interested in a career in STEM fields. That student then focuses their electives towards that STEM career preparation. The idea is that we're providing our kids an opportunity with our certificated staff in a safe environment before they go off to college and drop $40,000 a year on a major they change 3 times, to really explore what it is they want to do and to have that environment where we can help nurture them towards understanding if that's really where they want to go, but also if they do, providing them the skill set. So the academy structure is really just a way we view our academic program. It's a way of organizing the school around it. It makes a smaller learning community, so instead of 900 students in a school, you have 900 students, but you also have a focus of maybe 210, 250. So it creates a school within a school as well. So it gives the kids a more nurturing environment.
And what happens when they change their mind? Because I was that college
Yep.
person that changed their
I did
major
that.
4 times. 4 times, yeah.
That's me too.
You know, because I had a lot of interest, as a lot of our high school students do.
Correct.
So what happens when they decide, you know what, I don't want this anymore. This was really interesting, but now I want to do something else or explore another area.
It is completely okay for a student to move. So for example, when I taught in a school that had an academy structure, I had STEM students. And one of the reasons they often change is 9th to 10th grade. They picked in 8th grade, came to us in 9th and said, whoa, that's not what I wanted. By giving them 9th grade, our hope is we can diminish that amount of change where students don't come in. We have a chance to really explore what each field is. But I'd have a STEM student who then went on to, I want to be a business major. She had a decision. She could stay in our academy because she became very attached to our advisory. She was very close to the other 17 students. But a lot of the electives we're offering don't just apply to one academy. So if I'm taking economics, that elective applies across probably all 4 academies. It's just a matter of how those electives align to each career strand. So in the end, a student can very easily move throughout the academy structure, and they're not limited. So a student who chooses STEM doesn't only have to take STEM electives. The student can explore all the way across the board. The idea, though, is that if a student has a focal point and say we have an art student who's really focused in the arts, it allows us to tailor their course offerings towards that preparatory program. If they decide to move along the way, then we move with them. It's really very flexible. It sounds rigid on the surface, but it's actually a pretty flexible system for students within the structure.
I follow up with the facilitator. Another question on that. By the dollar amount, it looks like this would be a full-time position. What would an ideal candidate for something like that look like? Would it be an internal candidate who's familiar with staff? Are we looking like it could be an external candidate? It could be, I'm assuming if it's a current teacher, this would become their full-time position. And am I correct on that?
Correct. And my answer would be I want whoever's best for my kids and my staff.
Okay.
Whether that's internal or external, I want whoever's best for the kids and the staff. Ideally, the person would be good at working with staff members and meeting them where they are. They'd have the ability to be collegial in that way. They would ideally have an understanding of data analysis, and I'll use the line that there's way too much data out there. They know how to pinpoint the data that works for our teachers. They would be able to have those professional conversations in a confidential manner with the teacher. If they come to them and say, I'm struggling in this area, can you find me some support for, say, classroom management? They'd be an individual who understands the needs of our students and how supporting our teachers can reach that. So really, I'm looking for the person who is best for our building and for our kids and our staff. Whether it's internal, external, I honestly don't know. But I really think we need to find a person for this who's going to help lead our staff in a direction that we're very fortunate. We have a highly capable, awesome staff. But we need a resource to help them reach the heights they know they can reach.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
I got a long walk back to that corner.
Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Benko. And with 8 yeses, the motion carries. Next item are the activity buses. Do we have motion to approve the budget proposal to add 2 activity buses?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussions related to this item?
I guess just a comment to kind of echo what was discussed before, just some concerns of mine in terms of this really not serving enough students. I understand that it will serve some, and I understand a lot of districts do have these buses, and if it was for purely academic kinds of benefits for our students, I think that would be, if they have to stay after school for enrichment or extra help or whatever, and this was the only way that they could get it, I could understand that a little bit more. I guess I'm just having trouble with, thinking of, okay, a 5 o'clock bus run, and how is that going to really meet the needs of a majority of our students with after-school programming? Because I'm in Dover often enough, and I see the comings and goings, and I'm struggling with that a little bit. I know it's only $20,000, but it's still $20,000.
Yeah, I'm looking at this as a kind of a pilot program. I mean, that's how I'm looking at it as, and I think you're right. It's not going to hit everybody. I mean, two activity buses, we can't. But at the same time, I don't want to put 10 on and not have it utilized. So again, from my thinking, is let's see what we have with 2 activity buses, see if they're being utilized. And start there. I mean, if we find out, they're loaded to capacity every day, well, that's something we have to look at, and and take from there. Do we have to add 2 or 3 or maybe a second run, so to speak, for an activity bus? I mean, so that's how I'm looking at it, as knowing that we're not going to hit everybody on this one.
I guess I look at it in terms of think too, maybe we should have been kind of backed up a little bit before we kind of said, okay, let's try these 2 activity buses, and somehow done a survey of, okay, who would use this and for what activities and what time would be the most appropriate, because just kind of setting a time of 5 o'clock, I think that's probably the least popular time to hop on a bus to go home, because you're either just arriving for something or whatever you were there for ended an hour ago. So maybe do some kind of a survey prior to initiating the trial run, kind of the pilot run of something like that. I don't know, I feel like this is a little premature.
I would fully expect that, if there's a timing issue there, our administration will work with what makes the most sense. They're already working with trying to work with, runs that capture a large majority of the neighborhoods. So I don't think we necessarily have to vote in favor or not in favor based on the information at this point in time. I think the concept here is to try to provide a vehicle of transportation for some students that don't have any other way to get home. And a couple years ago, we had talked about the development right next door here that didn't have busing and the kids were walking, and we tried that and found that it was pretty well utilized. And so if a year down the road or half a year down the road we find out activity buses aren't working, well then I'd be willing to reconsider. But I'm kind of like Chuck here, is let's give it a try. We've been hearing this for a couple years, that it's something that could enhance more participation. So now's a good time, in my opinion, to give it a try, and let's see how it works out.
And what happens to the students who are done at 3 o'clock? Because there are some programs that end at 3:30. What happens to those students who are just hanging out till 5 o'clock? I know we have a lot of really good students, and most of our kids are well behaved most of the time, but you get a group of kids unsupervised, which they would be for an extended period of time, and things happen. So what are the ramifications of that as a district? What's the liability there as a district? What just some other things to think about? Because that can be a long period of time to have to wait for a bus.
Well, what do they do now? Because there isn't a bus. So I would think that it would be the similar situation. If you know that you're done early enough, that you would make the appropriate arrangements to be picked up. Whereas, the bus could even, having something like this maybe could encourage the creation of more after-school academic-oriented or like mock trial, those kinds of chess clubs. Different academic-related clubs that maybe might not happen right now because a lot of kids don't have the access to go home. But then the ones that already are there are already organizing their own transportation and planning how to get home if they're done at 3:30. So I would think you would already have that, so it shouldn't really be an issue. That's my thinking.
Well, and I would be all for those extra academic and club and activities, but it's a matter of finding, teachers get done at the end of their workday, and they have other lives to get to, and not, is there going to be somebody who's going to stick around and have a club until 5 o'clock? Just playing devil's advocate here a little bit, but concerns of mine.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, Mrs. Benko. With 6 yeses and 2 noes, motion carries. Okay, next item is the new district van. Do we have a motion to approve the budget proposal for the purchase of a new district van?
I motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on this?
Is Jamie going to be allowed to drive it?
No.
Okay.
That's a separate vote, too, probably.
Poor Jamie. Any other questions or discussion on that? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Benko. With 8 yeses, motion carries. Next item is K through second grade technology equipment. Do we have a motion to approve the budget proposal to purchase K through 2 technology equipment?
Motion.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions or discussions related to this item?
I'm really looking forward to getting some feedback on how those initiatives that we had talked about are working. Brad showed some pictures of, of being implemented in the pilot program down at Live, and it looks pretty exciting. So I'm really looking forward to, assuming we pass it, I'm looking forward to feedback on that.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Benko. With 8 yeses, motion carries. Okay, next item is the budget itself and the tax rate approval. Do we have a motion to approve the 2016-17 budget and tax rate?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussions? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Benko. With 8 yeses, motion carries. Okay, next item under Human and Fiscal Resources is the agreement between the Dover Area School District Board of Directors and the Dover Area Education Support Professionals Association. So do we have a motion to approve the 2015 through 2018 agreement between the Dover Area School District Board of Directors and the Dover Area Education Support Professionals Association?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion?
As the point of order, I will be abstaining from this vote since my wife is part of that.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, hearing none, Mrs. Benko. With 7 yeses, motion carries. Okay, moving on in the agenda, we are now at the superintendent's report. Mr. Cherry.
I gave my update last week, so I'm going to allow the agenda to move on.
Do any board members have any questions for Mr. Cherry at this time during his report period? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the miscellaneous section. This is an opportunity for additional comments or observations from our board members. Do any board members have anything to discuss tonight? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to the second public comment period. This is a 2-minute period. If you wish to make any comments related to items on or off of the agenda, you may certainly do so by coming to the microphones and stating your name and address for the record.
I'm Richard Bass, 2311 Baylor Drive. Earlier this year, I had injured myself at school and was told by the district that they are not responsible for their students. And I am just curious about what exactly is meant by that.
Mr. Bass, do you have a parent or guardian in attendance with you? Okay, we just have to make sure.
Yeah.
Under policy, thank you.
Because when we were told that, me and my mom could not understand that, because we were always told that the district and all the teachers are responsible for the students, and then are told that they're not responsible. I can't quite understand that.
Okay. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else for public comment? Okay, seeing no one on the move, we will then move on to the future meeting announcements. Our next regular board meeting will be June 21st at 7:00 p.m. That's a Tuesday. We will have board committee meetings on June 23rd. That's a Thursday at 6 p.m. And then the board planning meeting on June 23rd at 7 p.m. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say yes. Yes. We're adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.